Welcome back to our YouTube tutorial. Today we are going to look at how to create a simple navigation drawer in Flutter. My name is Mosh and this is Mosh Code Academy. Today we are going to look at how do we create a simple navigation drawer in Flutter. And without wasting time, maybe let me first explain what is a navigation drawer. A navigation drawer is a side menu in Flutter that allows users to navigate between different sections. So without wasting time, let us first create a simple application where we are going to implement this simple navigation drawer. So always looking at my previous tutorial, when we are creating a Flutter application, we always go at the search, then you look for CMD, the command prompt, which will display this dark terminal window. And on this dark terminal window, you need to change the directory and so that you can change it to the desktop. Remember, the application you want to develop, we want to access it on the desktop. That's why we change the directory looking at the CD desktop, and then you enter. Once you change directory to CD, and then you go to your desktop, you're able now to run a simple command. This is the simple command to create a Flutter application, which is Flutter create. And since we are looking at a simple navigation drawer, let us just call it navigation. Let us call our application as navigation drawer. So we call it navigation drawer. And as I told you, for you to create a Flutter application, you need some internet. Make sure you have internet connection on your device, because as the Flutter application will be creating, it needs to pick some online dependencies. Now, since I have everything ready, I'll just simply click on run. I'll just enter my, I'll click on enter so that it can create my Flutter application. So you're going to see that it doesn't take a lot of time. Within just 1 minute, we have already successfully created our Flutter application. How do you confirm? For as long as it pops up a new terminal, you're going to see that even your application code navigation is within there. So this message confirms that we have our Flutter application. And if we are to close this and we go back to look at our desktop, you can see that our application is up here. This is the application folder, whereby you're going to open this application folder by double clicking on it, and you can see that we have the different folders and the different files of the application. So we need to open this project in our VS Code by running cmd then code space dot, so that we can open our application in the VS Code. So we have our application opened in the VS Code, and always, even in my previous videos, I always mention that with Flutter we shall be spending a lot of time in the lib. Lib is the folder where all the Flutter application files are going to be kept. All the screen UIs, whatever you want to create as a UI or the user interface, the screens are going to be created inside the lib. But by default, when we create a Flutter application, it creates a main.dat which is residing inside the lib. This main.dat is a sample file which has got the sample codes for a Flutter application. So what we always do first is to run this so that we confirm whether everything has been set successfully and our Flutter application can run. So without wasting time, I'm going to first run this so that we can see whether the Flutter application can compile before we can create our simple navigation drawer. So what I do, I'll just simply click on this. Once I click on this button run, I'll start debugging, and of course when I click on start debugging, it's going to list some of the available browser options or the devices that I can use. As I told you right now, I haven't yet connected the mobile device. I'll be using the existing options, that is Chrome, Edge or Window. I'll always go by Chrome. Later in my other videos, I'll be teaching you how to connect your mobile device, because remember, with Flutter we are building mobile applications. These applications should be able to compile on our mobile device. But for now, let us always go with this option of Chrome. So I'll click on Chrome, and of course in the background my Flutter application will begin to build. So for the first time, it might take some time as it is building, because it needs to collect all the dependencies, it needs to collect all the tools for your Flutter application to display. So you must be a little bit patient as it is compiling, and after some time, after some few minutes, it's going to display in the browser. So we use Chrome so that it can depict the same behavior, how it's going to happen, or how it's going to look like when you compile it on your mobile application. So right now it has displayed this window, which is a Chrome browser, and it is still making everything ready so that we can see our first demo application. Yes, so you can see right now it has successfully compiled, and we have this always the default Flutter application that is always we access, and this is like a counter app, which I always mention that when you click on this floating button, you can keep on incrementing or decrementing. So this one confirms that our Flutter application is okay and it can successfully build. So for us, we are not going to waste time on this. What we want to cover today is how do we create a simple navigation drawer. So I'm going to close this and I'll stop the Flutter application, and then without wasting time, I'm going to change this. I'm going to remove everything from the main.dat. I want to create my own screens and my own code. Since I've mentioned that a navigation drawer is a side menu in a Flutter app that allows users to navigate between different sections. So this is what we are going to implement right about now. So without wasting time, let us first remove everything from the main.dat. So I'm going to remove everything from main.dat, then I'll be creating my own code. But for now, let me first disable the internet so that I don't have the automatic suggestions. I want to write everything from scratch so that at your end you're able to see each and everything. So now always the first step to create a Flutter application is to import our material UI package, which is a container widget for building UI components like the app bar, the drawer, the list view, and other components like the buttons, the text fields, the scaffold. So you cannot use all those material design widgets without importing this line of code. So how do we do this? We just write the simple code import, and as you're writing, you can see that the VS Code keeps on suggesting. So we import from package. So we import from package, and this package is coming from Flutter. Then the file is known as material.dat. So you always need this line, and without this line, we cannot use the Flutter UI elements. Those UIs, we have mentioned them, like the app bar, the drawers, the list views, the text fields. So for us to be able to use those ones, we need this line of code, the import. We import a material design from this Flutter package, and the file is called material.dat. After finishing this, our next step is to create what we call a main entry point of the app, which is a main function. And for us to create this, we use the void. So we write void main, which is a function that we need to activate by adding those parentheses. Then you use the curly braces. Now within the main, always there is a built-in function to run and compile our Flutter application, which is known as the run app. The run app always initializes the app, and it calls the my my app widget. So we shall use the run app, and we use a camel case because the first letter, and this is the right syntax when you're creating a function. We use a camel case scenario whereby the first R is small and the other first letter of the word is capital. So we use the run app, which is a built-in function, and then we shall call my app. My app is always a class that we are going to create later, and then we terminate. So you need this line of code as it is acting as our entry or starting point of every Flutter application. So before you write your Flutter application, you need this line of code, because it will be this code or this function that will be invoked to ensure that your Flutter application can build, and then you can see it either on your mobile device or on the Chrome, depending on which gadget or on which device you decided to use. Now from there, the other next step we are going to do is to create this class. And remember, what do? We shall use a class which is a reserved keyword, and then you pick this class name, because within here we are picking it as an object, but you need to create its class, and its class is known as class my app, which needs to extend. In my previous video I explained we extend because we need to inherit everything from a stateless widget, which is also a class. So we are going to implement everything from a stateless widget by performing one of the basic principles or the main principles of programming, which is inheritance. So we are trying to inherit every attribute, every functionality from a stateless widget class, and we are extending it so that now also my app, which is a class, can utilize some of the functions, some of the attributes of a stateless widget. After this, I told you that we need to override. We always override. The reason as why we override, as we are importing a stateless widget, it comes along with its own functions and attributes, and we need to first override them. We need to silence them so that we can be in full control of how those functions are going to be utilized in our class, which is the my app. Then from there, we need to pick our widget, which is also class, and we use what we call a build function. So we pick the widget, then build, and within the build it picks two attributes and a parameter, or two parameters, one being the build, which is build context, and it is a class, and then its attribute, which is context. So we use the build context and its attribute context, then we attach what we call the curly braces. From within here, the other thing we need to do, we need to use what we call a return statement, which is a reserved keyword. And what do we return? First of all, you need to return the material app, and this material app is a class, but within here we bring it as an object. And I mentioned that how do you tell that this is an object and this is a class? When you look at my app, it is a class, but as we are trying to import it here, we picked it as an object. The same applies to a material app. It is a class, but here we are utilizing it as an object. Why? Because we activate it. So from there, within the parenthesis of the my app, there are two things that we pass. First of all, we need to disable the debug bar. The debug bar, it is that red line that is always displayed in your screen. So for us to disable that, this debug bar, there is that debug bar check mode banner, which is a boolean, and we shall set it to false. So we check our debug bar and we turn it to false, meaning by default it is true, so we need to turn it to false. Then from there, the other thing we need an attribute which is home, and this home attribute is a widget, and this widget is going to pick what we want to set as our default home screen. Therefore, we are going to create a class after, but for now we are picking it as an object here, and it is a home screen. Maybe to first explain this line of code, what we have so far covered, we have defined my app as a class, yeah, as a stateless widget, meaning the UI does not change dynamically. We have also imported a material app, which is like our main wrapper, that it has what we call disable. We shall disable the debug banner through this line of code, and we are setting our home screen as the default screen that will be displaying. So the home screen is a default screen, or is going to be our main screen that is going to display. Remember, we are trying to create a simple navigation drawer, and we need a screen where we are going to implement this. So when you're writing a screen, or if you want to create a screen, it is a class on its own, and therefore we need to be outside this. You should not write within this class app. It is a separate class, and make sure that you're not writing the opening and closing curly braces of my app. It's going to be a different class. Therefore, we're going to jump outside that, and then we use a class which is a reserved keyword, and we shall be able to create home screen as a class. Still, the home screen being a class, it's going to extend. So it's going to extend from a stateless. We are going to extend from a stateless widget, and then you add the curly braces. Always what you do next is to override. Don't forget to override, as we need to override, because by default, when you import, when you perform what we call an inheritance, where you're picking from another class, that class comes along with its own functions and attribute, and you need to silence them through this override. So when you override, it means that you're in full control of every attribute and functionality within that. Then from there, we are creating this home screen being the main screen of the app, where the navigation drawer is going to be displayed. It is also a stateless, meaning it does not maintain any state. Yeah. So from here, what we do next is to use what we call we are going to return now. Yeah. We do the same thing. We are going to return. We need a return what? A return statement. Yes. We need to return. So we are going to return. Yes. But before we return, we need to first of all use a widget, which is a class widget. Then we build. We almost implement the same thing like this. We use the widget and then the build, which is a built-in function. Then from there, this function inherits two parameters. That's one being build context, and then its attribute being context. Then from there, we attach the curly braces. Now here you're going to realize that we returned a material app, and this is like the main wrapper, yeah, of our application. So what we need to do next here is to return a scaffold. We return a scaffold instead, yeah, which is like the container, yeah, of our application. So return a scaffold, and when we return a scaffold, what we do next, we shall enter in the parameters, or in the parentheses of the scaffold, and we first of all pass what we call the app bar, the attribute app bar. Yeah, this is acting as like the title of our app, and we use a class which is app bar, and here we are picking it as an object, and this object is coming from the app bar class. Then within here, it has parameters, or it has what we call attribute, one being a title, and it's a widget, and we shall use what we call a text widget, so that we can add a text that is going to appear as our title for the app. So let us call this one maybe navigation app, navigation drawer app, navigation, let us call it navigation drawer app. Yeah. So since we are writing a navigation drawer app, so we are going to give it a title, navigation drawer app. So we have passed that parameter within here, but in form of this attribute title, and then we have utilized one of the widget, and this widget is picked from a material design app that we imported up here. Then from this, the other thing that you need to do is to write a code for the drawer. Remember, we want to use the drawer. So there is an attribute called drawer, which is also a widget, and this widget drawer should inherit the object So there is an object known as a drawer, yeah, because you want to create a drawer, so it has got what we call an object, which is a drawer. And within this object we are going to use one of the attribute being child, and it is from a widget class, and this child class is going to utilize what we call a list view. Yeah, we are going to need a list view. Yes, I'm going to later explain this line of code, but for now let us first write. So we are creating a list view, and within the list view I'm going to use some padding because I need to have some space between elements, and this padding, it will utilize what we call the edge insert all, and we set our value maybe insert all, and this time round we might not use the all. Let us first use the default 0. So we want to set our padding to be 0. We shall later adjust the space. The padding is equivalent to our normal padding in HTML and CSS. Then from here we shall use another attribute being children, because we want to create those different options, or the list views that we are going to have. So we shall pass them as an array. As you can see here, they are coming as an array, yeah, and within this array we are going to pick now another widget, which is known as a drawer header. So we need to create a drawer header. Yes, there is what we call the drawer header, which is also a widget, and within the drawer header we are going to pass different attributes. Yeah, we shall pass the first attribute being our decoration. We're going to first perform some simple CSS by just performing the decoration, which is going to use a box decoration, and within the box decoration we can change our color. We can change the color, and we are using color. So there is that class which is called colors, and we shall use a blue one. Yeah, it depends. It's not that by default always shall use the blue color. It depends on what you want, but for now let us use that blue color. Then from there, the other thing that you need is maybe to look for another attribute, which is child, and we are going to use what we call a column, because you want to list those different menu options as columns. So you pass them as columns and use what we call a cross alignment, cross axis alignment, and it will inherit its class, which is cross alignment dot start. So we shall want to have everything starting from the margin. Then from there, within still the column, we are going to pass children, and these children they are going to be picked from this option, and it is we list them as an array. Then from here we are going to utilize another widget, which is called circle. Yeah, we are going to use a circular avatar. We are going to use a circular avatar, which is a widget, and then within the circular avatar we are going to perform some CSS by adding some radius being 30. Yes, then from there is also background. We are going to change a background color, and we are going to use the colors widget, not the color but colors. So, and then we shall still maintain our white. This time now let's use white, not blue, maybe. Then from there, the other thing that you need, we shall utilize also some icon, because we want to beautify our application. So from the icons class we can now use icons. Yes, we can now use icons. Then dot let us use icon.person. Yeah, we are going to use icon.person. Now this is equivalent to your font some icons in HTML, and we can set its size to be 40 because we want it to be visible, and we can also attach it a color. So we are going to use the colors widget, then dot, and maybe let's maintain blue. Yeah, not black, it will be blue. Yeah, so from here we have created that circular card. So from this, the other thing you need to put a comma here. Yes, after putting a comma, you need also to have some space, because now what is coming next is to create the different list option. Those ones like the way you see, maybe you have the home, you have setting, you have profile, you have, let's say, order as the side menu. As you see, after running everything, I'll come back to explain each line of code so that you're able to understand, understand. So don't worry, we are going to achieve this. Now from here, the other thing you need is to have some space. For you to create space between the icon and the different text that we are going to list down, we need to have what we call a widget. There is a widget known as sized box. So the sized box, you can set its height. This one adds like a space between elements, so we can use, let's say, maybe we can apply a sized box which is 10. Yeah, let's use 20. Let it be 10. Then from here we can now have a text. For example, we can use a default widget which is a text, and we can pass here, maybe we are passing what, your username. Yeah, we can pass your username. And maybe my username might be Mosh. Yeah, but let us also modify it by adding some style. We are performing some CSS here, and we are going to use a text style, and then we use colors. Then there is that class colors dot, and we are going to maintain white. This time around, let's use white. We are still finalizing with our CSS. And then there is what we call a font size, and we can set our font size to be 18. Yeah, so we want now what is going to display at our end. Then from here we can also come back and we use what we call a text, because we want to have more other content displaying. And then what are we having here is going to be our email. So my email might be mosh@gmail.com. yeah, still we can also style this. You can apply some inline CSS here. We are using text style. Yeah, we are using a text a widget which is known as a text style, where you can set its colors. Yes, and then we shall still maintain white. We shall use what we call color, not color, it is colors dot white. We are maintaining a white color, then comma. We shall also set its we might not change a lot, or let's just leave white, and maybe white 70. Yeah, we want the white to be a 70. So far what we have, we can first try to compile, and we see the results that we are having in our browser. So make sure you save everything, and we first run up to this point. We see what we have, whether we have created a navigation drawer or not. So we can now run this by simply clicking on this button, run. Click on the start debugging, and by default in the background, since we selected the Chrome, our project is going to build, and it will be accessed in the Chrome. So we want to first look at that before we can move any further. Let us have that. Yes, so we are creating that, and it is running in the background. We want to first look at what we have so far, so that I can first explain this before we can proceed. So it is building in the background, and it might take some time. Of course you need internet. Sorry, I need to enable the internet connection, because without the internet my application might not finish to compile. So let me first enable the internet. Once again, I need the internet. So once I enable the internet, I'll just need to refresh that. So that's why you're not seeing anything on the browser. So you need the internet, and once you have the internet, it will support your different options, your different build. Now you can see when I added the internet, I'm able to see what we have so far. One, we have the navigation drawer app, which is acting as like our title, and that title is visible here. you can see that we created what we call the app bar here. And the reason as why we wanted this app bar, it acts as like the title of our application, and we gave it a name, navigation drawer app. So always whenever you want to give a title to your application, you use what we call the app bar option. Then from there, the other thing we have done, let me minimize it still. We have created what we call a drawer. Now this drawer, it opens as like a menu. Once I click on it, you can see it opens and closes. Yeah, you can see it opens and closes by simply clicking on this. So these open menu options, they are as a result of this, where we picked a drawer and we utilized a widget known as drawer. Now within the drawer, we created a child, which is a list view, so that now we are able to list those different options. Yeah, you can see we created a list view, and then we opened what we call a drawer header. Now this is the drawer header. Once I click on this, this is the drawer header. The one which is in the blue color is what we call the drawer header. The entire opened sidebar is now that sidebar menu, which is as a result of a drawer. But within a drawer, we can specialize a drawer menu. And now you can see this icon and this different text. Those ones, they are as a result of this circular what? The circle avatar. Yeah, we picked a circle avatar and we used an icon being person. That's why you can see that we have this circular avatar, which is a widget, and then within the avatar we have got what we call an icon, and this icon is equivalent to our font awesome icon. We have also got this different text, which is Mosh being my username, and the email is mosh@gmail.com. Now those ones, there are these different text widgets that we picked, and then we passed those different text. We performed some CSS, the inline CSS, where we styled the color and even the font size, so that we are able to see them, because if we didn't style them, they would be in either color black or blue, which might not be visible because even our drawer header is in blue color. So what we need to do next is to attach those different menu options, like let's say home, about us, maybe profile, setting, all the different menu options that you might have in your mobile application. So for us to achieve that, we are going to go back to our code. Yes, and we shall now proceed with where we have stopped. So remember, we created this circular navigation drawer, this circular avatar, which is a widget. We added this different sized box so that we can add some space before. As you can see, we have space between the text and the icon. Now what is left is to come back here, and now you create those different list options or the menu options. But for you to create the menu options, make sure you're outside the drawer. You're outside the drawer. So at the drawer, we are going to move outside the drawer, and then we come here to create now what we call the list title. So there is a widget known as list title. Sorry, let me first disable the internet because I want to write everything on my own, not to have that automated copilot or AI, which helps us to have the suggestions. So I'll have the listing. I'll still have the list it is still picking, but don't worry. So I'll have the list I'll have the list tile. So there is a widget known as a list tile that adds those different menu options. So I'm adding my navigation items using a list tile. It is used, and since I want to add some icons, I'm going to use another a widget which is called leading, and I'll use the icon class. I want to add some icons, and within here I use what we call icons dot. I want to first use my icon dot home because I want to create a home item. Now from here I'll put a comma. Then what I'll do next is to use what we call a title. I'll add a title, not title color, it will be just title, which is a widget. And I'll have a title as a widget, and it is using what we call widget text, and I'll have this one as home. Yeah, I'm writing my first navigation item as home. And then the other thing you can add on home is we shall use also the on tap method. Yeah, this function, it will be useful more so when we want to navigate from one screen to the other. For now, let us just create it the way it is, and we can leave it empty. Yeah, so we can save this, and then we still run again to see whether we have successfully created our first navigation menu item. Yeah, we can run this to see whether we have successfully created our first navigation menu item. So let us give it few seconds, but remember we need internet. We need internet enabled so that we can see the results in the browser. So I always disconnect the internet because by default in my VS Code there is that GitHub Copilot. And always I emphasize that as a junior developer, it's not recommended to use these GitHub Copilot. You leave them to only senior developers, because for them they have the experience and they can use them efficiently. But for you, since you're still learning, make sure you can be able to write the code by your own. Like, you can write code from scratch. Do not use those AIs. The only time you can use AI is when you feel like now there is a problem and you need to configure it. So when I click on this open navigation, you can see that our first menu icon, rather our first navigation menu item is listed here as home. So we can create more other as here. Yeah, we are going to have, let's say, the setting and maybe the profile. So we can have that. For instance, I'm going to leave that one running. Since I have this menu item as created using this, we can simply just copy this and we paste. Yeah, we can copy this, and then you paste. You copy and paste, and then you simply change this one from this to profile. Yeah, so you check whether there is that option of profile. Yeah, you check to see. So there is profile, sorry. Okay, profile. So if that option is there, it will always keep showing you. But if there is no icon which is named as profile, you will see that red line. So let me use person. I guess person is there. When I save again, there is that automatic auto reload in our Flutter, which automatically refreshes our page without us necessarily rerunning the same project. So when you run it once, you might not stop it. You can now just continue by saving, and the auto reload will perform its task. It automatically refreshes the page and it will display that the new option you have added. So we have home, we have profile. Let me add one more, which is going to be my settings. So I'll simply still copy the same. I'll copy this list tile and I'll create the other option. I paste it down. Now I'll change this one from person to settings. Yeah, I'll have it as settings. Yeah, settings. So I have settings, and I'll change this title from that to settings. Yeah, then I'll save settings. I'll save. My auto reload is working in the background. When I open still my navigation drawer, you're going to see that we shall have these settings as also a menu item listed. So you can see that we have successfully created our sidebar menu or our menu icon items using a navigation drawer. So maybe without wasting time, let me first repeat some of the steps we have gone through before I can end this tutorial. So one, we imported a material app using this line of code. On line 1, we imported the material app. The reason that's why we need always a material app, it's because you cannot use the widgets, you cannot use the buttons, you cannot use the text field without importing this material app. Then from there, we had to create what we call our main entry point, which is created using the void. The void is the main entry point or the main function, which Flutter recognizes and it can use to do this. Then from there, we created our class, because here we imported class being my app. We needed to create a root widget. And now this root is created as my app, and it is extending from the stateless what widget. We had to override. Then from overriding, we used a widget, which is a class, and then a build function, which inherits two parameters, one being a class, then the other one being what? A parameter, rather an attribute being context. Then here we return the material app, which is like the main wrapper, the one which wraps your entire application. So the material app, and we wanted to first disable the debug banner. So it is a boolean. By default it is always true. We changed it to false. Then from there, what we did next was to create our home screen. Now this home screen is like the first screen that is going to be displayed, and this screen, the one you're seeing here, is what we named as home screen. Remember I said whenever I want to create screens in Flutter, or as you're developing your mobile application in Flutter, screens are treated as classes. So we imported a class here as an object, so we had to create that class being home screen. That's why on line 14 we created a home screen using this class reserved keyword, which extends from a stateless what widget. We did the same other thing, whereby we used the override. Then we picked a widget which uses a build function, and then it inherits the same the class and the attribute. We return the scaffold. Within the scaffold, it is acting as like our container. Then we use the app bar, which you're seeing here, and this app bar gives us a title, the title of our application. Then from here we used a drawer, which we wanted to create. This drawer, the one which brings this menu icon, this is the drawer. The entire of it, this side, is a drawer. It is equivalent to the sidebar in web development. Then within the sidebar menu, we wanted to first of all have a drawer header. We created a drawer header, this one which is in the blue color. We created a drawer header, and within the drawer header we passed what we call an avatar using a circular avatar, and then we used an icon from the icons class. This one, we used the icon from the icons class. Then we use some texts, where one is acting as a username and then the other one is an email. So we have them here, one being the username and then the other one being the email. Then from there we wanted to create the real navigation items, that is home, profile, and settings. What did we do? We picked from the list tile. This is a widget, and this widget provides us with the navigation items. So for us to beautify them, we had to use what we call leading, so that we can attach icons onto this onto these menu items. Then from there we passed what we call a title, and we looked at a text which is a widget, and we passed the exact text that we wanted. We use the on tap. Right now it is silent, but later on we are going to see how we move from one screen to the other. We shall use this built-in function known as on tap. Yes. Then from there we created the rest, and yes, this is what we can create. Whenever you're told to create a navigation drawer, this is a simple code that you need. I will hope that everything is okay. In case you have any question or any query, you can always give me a comment on my YouTube. I'll always read those comments, and I'll always adjust. Thank you so much for watching. Wait me in my next video. Have a blessed day. Thank you.